loneliness and isolation.
Yo.
Bro, here's what happened. So like I was saying earlier on, I put this poll up. Everybody wants to talk about loneliness and isolation because everybody out here is feeling lonely. Which strikes me as a little bit odd, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. If for no other reason than that we're all doing this. Like every time I go on my IG, every time anybody switches on their IG, all you see is everybody's like, I'm live, I'm live, I'm live, I'm live, I'm live, like whatever else. Everybody's talking to everybody all day long. That's all anybody's doing. That's the only conversation anybody's having with anybody else. Is this kind of thing. So how anybody can be lonely under these circumstances strikes me as a little bit odd, but fine. We'll put that aside. We ain't gonna deal with it. That's cool. We'll forget about it. Everybody's still lonely. Even with Instagram and Facebook, we all texting each other 24 hours a day, but we out here saying we lonely. But okay. Look, I won't make it sound like I can't like sympathize. I can. So I'm gonna tell you some true stories. Let me just tell you some true stories. So look, a couple years ago, let me kick you some isolation and loneliness. A couple years ago, I was living here and I had to fuck off. I went to Spain, chilled in Spain for God knows how long, but deliberately to make myself lonely and isolated, like deliberately, like that was the idea. Now, what gets me is that I'm not the only one that ever did this in the course of my life. I know mad people who have done this. Like before all of this stuff happened, before Corona happened, before we all started feeling isolated and lonely, everybody was going to work. And at some point in the course of their work life was saying to themselves, yo, I wish I could just be on my own for 5 minutes, or I wish I could be away from the hustle and bustle for 5 minutes, or I wish I wasn't doing this on a daily basis. I wish I could have 5 minutes where I wasn't being stressed for bills or rent, wasn't going to work every single day. All right, cool. So we've all been there. I'm not saying this is that. I'm not saying this is that. But what I'm saying is we've all been at that point where it's like, I need 5 minutes to myself, or I need to be on my own, or I need to vent some stuff away from everybody else. Like we've all done this at some point or another in the course of our lives. And I did the same thing. Like I understand it. Like it was the same situation for me. So I go to Spain. Mark was there. I mean, he wasn't physically there, but I was doing this with Mark. So I was calling Mark and Mark, listen, I got to shout this out. Listen, I got to show Mark some love. Everybody got to show Mark a little bit of love. Everybody give Mark a little clap. Everyone give Mark a little wave because, yo, Mark pulled me back from the brink one time. Like, yo, I'm going to be honest with you. Everybody give Mark a little wave. Everyone clap for Mark because this probably wouldn't happen if Mark wasn't answering the phone when I was stuck in Spain losing my fucking mind. So, like,
I still want to stay there for a bit, though. Stay in that brink.
Yeah, you got to stay in a little bit of loneliness and isolation.
Yeah, you got to feel it. That's the whole point.
You got to feel the pain. You got to feel the pain, man. You got to feel the pain a little bit. And that's how you know it's like real loneliness and real isolation. You're suffering on the inside. So, no, for real.
Let's bring it down a bit.
No, exactly. No, but for real. On the real, like if Mark wasn't there, if you weren't there during that period of time, if I didn't have somebody to vent to, I may well have really slipped. Like I could well have really gone like nuts. I was losing my mind while I was out in Spain. And like I went there to do that. Right? So, okay, cool. So whatever I might say in the course of the rest of this hour or whatever it is, I want everyone to bear this in mind. Like, don't think for a single second that like I didn't go crazy too. I don't think we have a legitimate reason to go crazy now. I'll get to that. But what I'm saying is, everybody has legitimate reasons to go crazy. And I went crazy at one point too. Like I went isolated and lonely and all that kind of stuff too. The difference being, of course, the obvious difference being is I did it on purpose, right? And that's what everyone's going to say. And that's what the obvious realization that everybody will make. That the major difference between being isolated and lonely when you want to be because you need to vent something versus being lonely and isolated when you don't want to be because there's a fucking virus running around. Totally different things. Like I understand the coercion. But I don't know how you feel, Mark, but if we're being honest, if we're being really, really honest, I don't think anybody really ever wants to feel that way. Like, you know, when we feel like mad depressed and we feel really isolated and lonely, and I don't have to be. Yeah. Like that feeling of loneliness when I'm still going to work and I feel lonely. When I'm still going to school and I feel lonely. When I'm still seeing people outside and I feel lonely. When I'm still going to the shops and doing what I do in a regular day, but I feel lonely. I feel mad isolated. That's way worse.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think, for whatever we might say about the fact that, all right, we're stuck here and we're forced in this kind of isolation and loneliness, and I understand that, I don't think anybody wants to feel that way.
No, like at the same time, it's obviously universal, and I think that's the thing. Obviously, feeling like that, you genuinely feel like you are just by yourself.
Right. Exactly.
But then also knowing that guy feels like it. That guy feels like it, or has at least, you know, in their lifetime.
That's what I'm saying, and you end up feeling that way, Like, regardless of who's around you, regardless of how many people you've got around you, regardless of how many friends you have, regardless of how many kind of contacts you keep in touch with, regardless of any of that stuff, you can feel incredibly isolated, incredibly lonely. And that kind of suffering, that kind of struggle isn't something that's really easy to deal with. Like, because it's not as though you could just point outside and say, I'm feeling isolated and lonely because of the fucking virus. Or I'm feeling isolated and lonely because I haven't seen anybody in like 4 months. Or whatever else. Like, I'm talking to people over Instagram and Facebook and whatever else all day long, so I can't have any human-to-human contact in any meaningful way, so I'm feeling isolated and lonely. In those circumstances, yeah, sure, we all feel that way. Like, I'm not saying you don't have the right to feel isolated and lonely under those circumstances, but it's a fuck of a world different than, like, I'm hanging out with mad people and I still feel like shit inside.
Yeah.
Like, that's a world of difference. Like, it's almost as though we've spent the last, yo, fam, is it just me? But we've spent the last, like, 5 years, correct me if I'm mistaken, but for the last 5 years, everybody's been rambling on about, yo, mental health this and mental health that, and yo, I got mental health issues, and I feel like anxious, and I got anxieties, man. I got social anxiety. I got social awkwardness, man. It's where I grew up, and da-da-da-da-da. Fine, cool. I'm not saying that those things aren't for real. Like, motherfuckers have got mad mental health issues. I'm one of them. Like, look at me right now. I've got a fucking cap on inside. Like, you know what I'm saying? We all got mad mental health issues. I'm not questioning whether or not, like, we do. You can't line this up this perfectly without having a mental health issue. But that you can't do this. You cannot do this to yourself at home whenever you look at, bro. Look at, like, you can't do that without having a mental health issue. I'm just saying, like, that's a level of like OCD. That's just not normal. But the point is, what I'm saying is, before all of this happened, all we were talking about were our mental health issues and the sincerity and severity of those problems. Suddenly, coronavirus happens. Everybody's stuck at fucking doors and everybody's lonely and isolated, but it's because of the coronavirus. And it's almost as though we forgot the severity and sincerity of the emotions and those feelings of isolation and loneliness that you were feeling when this wasn't here. Like, those things were like, that was horrible. That was the whole idea. That's all we were saying. People were feeling really depressed. Motherfuckers were really killing themselves. Like, motherfuckers were really feeling away. People are really struggling out here. Like, life is really hard for a bunch of people. But, like, that happened regardless of whether or not there's been social isolation or distancing from other human beings.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, it's not as though those crises of loneliness and isolation or like personal crises weren't the case or are any less the case now because we've got something else that we could blame. So because we've got coronavirus or whatever else, it doesn't immediately mean that, like, oh, okay, so now this is we can forget all of that stuff or we forget what it meant for us to feel that way. It's totally different, fam. What I'm trying to get at, what I'm really trying to get at, is it's important to remember at all times that your loneliness and your isolation, and yes, it is my trademark. Don't worry, I already copyrighted it. There's a clothing line coming out, but we'll talk about that later. Don't start now. You know this. But don't. How are you distracting me? What I'm saying is that putting aside everything else, what I'm really trying to say is it's important for us to bear in mind at all times that loneliness and isolation are not symptoms of the coronavirus. You know what I'm saying? They're not coming up because there's a virus. You are alone because there's a virus. You are not lonely because there's a virus. They're two completely fucking different things. I could be alone and not feel lonely at all. In fact, most of the time, I prefer to be on my own. Most of the time, I ain't trying to talk to nobody. Like, I'm not really trying to go outside. I'm not trying to meet up with people. I'm a recluse. I don't like things. Like, I'm an academic most of the time, bro. I sit at home and I read shit. That's what I do. I read stuff and I write stuff. Like, that's my shit. And then I break so that I can teach people. But that's all I do. Like, I'm not interested in much else. So, like, you could be alone and not be lonely, but the two things don't have to go hand in hand. It's not one and the same thing, which means you could not be alone and be lonely because the two things don't go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is it's not like, so it's just important for us to bear in mind at all times that our loneliness, whatever loneliness and isolation we feel now, that's not a consequence of the coronavirus. You are alone as a consequence of the coronavirus. You are not lonely as a consequence of the coronavirus. You are lonely because there was something wrong in the first place. Your aloneness is forcing you to confront what you never wanted to deal with. And I don't blame you much. I didn't want to deal with that shit either. That's why the fuck I went to Spain.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want to deal with it here either. I didn't want to deal with it full stop. So I went the fuck to Spain, stayed the fuck away from everybody else and talked to you, and that was it, Mark. Because, like, I wasn't trying to air this out in front of anyone else. I would feel away. So, like, it's just, we have to try to understand when we're talking about, like, I just wanted us to get some kind of definition. When we're talking about loneliness and isolation, We are not talking about a problem that has come as a consequence of the fact that there's social distancing laws in place, or that there's a virus that means that businesses have generally closed and we can't go outside and entertain ourselves. What it means is that those things that would otherwise have served as pleasant distractions from whatever the fuck it is in your mind that you can't cope with are no longer there. So you can't get distracted. So now you at home, stuck with you and you. And for a lot of people, that's a problem.
And that's the thing as well. I mean, we obviously since early childhood, we've always been encouraged to be in groups. Obviously, we go to start nursery, then school, and then, you know, so on and so on, constantly. And it's, you don't really, even as like, I mean, obviously, like the whole process of like initiation or rites of passage or something, that's the big key for where you would have to like look into yourself. That's where you really kind of have to spend time with yourself and understand exactly, I am an individual. You know, I was brought into this world by myself, and I will leave this world by myself. So therefore, I have to tread through my whole journey really by myself. Although I'm going to be surrounded by people forever, and I'm going to have loved ones, and I have people. But the real groundedness comes from the fact that you know that there is an aloneness within yourself. You know, there's an innate aloneness that just stays there forever.
Hey, look. I feel like it summed up real nice. Jean-Paul Sartre, right? Because that's my field, right? So Jean-Paul Sartre sums this up in a real nice sentence. It's one sentence. It's real clean. It's real nice. It's very easy for everybody to remember. If you are lonely when you are alone, it's because you're in bad company.
Yeah.
Now let that sit for a second. No. Let that marinate. Let that marinate. Olio, let that marinate for a second. I know, fuck what y'all are doing. Stop whatever the fuck y'all are doing. Whatever y'all are doing. Get the fuck away from whatever laptop you're on, or whatever YouTube channel you're on in the background. No, come here for a second. No, hold on. Y'all come here. Y'all come here for a second. All right. If you're lonely when you're alone, you're in bad company. Just let it sit. Just let it sit. Bye. Let it sit. Now, think about that shit for a second. You know what I'm saying? All he's trying to get across, I feel like, is exactly what you were saying a moment ago. The idea that you are born with an I, with a self, and you are dying with that same I, with that same self, that same thing that stays only in your head, that you always complain that nobody ever really understands, and I'm only ever really me, and nobody feels who I really am, and nobody knows where I've really come from, and nobody knows my personal struggles, and whatever. That I is always alone. It's just you in your head. Like, I don't think you've ever had anybody else in there. That's called schizophrenia. It's just you in your head. And insofar as that's the case, by and large, you deal with your life on your own. Like, don't forget the fact that, please, everybody, listen, please don't forget the fact that we are in a situation or a set of circumstances of comparative luxury. One, by comparison with history, and two, by comparison with the rest of the world. Most human beings in the rest of the world ain't meeting up in large numbers on a regular basis in the city. That's not what's happening. Like, we ain't all meeting up to go shopping, we ain't all meeting up to go to the supermarket, we ain't all meeting up to go to McDonald's, we ain't all meeting up to go to the cinema, we ain't all meeting up to whatever. Those things don't exist in mad countries on planet Earth. So it's not as though people are gathering in large numbers on a regular basis like that. Motherfuckers spend time on their own a lot of the time. It's just us. Like, I'm gonna kick this story to you, and I feel like I need to say some other stuff, but like, when I was teaching those Libyans, this is a crazy story. One of these days, this is gonna come up mad times, but like, one of these days, I'm gonna tell you all the story about the Libyans. And if y'all feel like you want to know about the Libyans, I'm gonna tell you. But the point is, one of these days, I was working with these Libyan kids. They came over from Libya, did it in the middle of the war. They came to the UK, and I was looking after them because I'm a translator, so I was talking on their behalf. Whatever, cool, right? But the point is, the overwhelming majority of them, nuts. For a whole bunch of different reasons, but nuts, the overwhelming majority of them. 2 or 3 of them were mad calm, and I couldn't understand what it was. So I sat down and talked to him a couple times. I was like, yo, homie, how come you so chill and everybody else so fucking crazy? Like, what is it with you? And what he said was, they're all from the city, man. Like, we're not from the city, homie. Like, we don't live there. We live in a village. So when the Civil War kicked off, shit ain't changed for us. The way he put it to me was like, bro, I had to let the goats out in the morning and bring them back in the evening. I ain't do shit. Like, nothing changed for me. Y'all are thinking it's fucking apocalypse and the end of the world and, like, you know, civilization as we know it is falling apart. Homie, ain't nothing changed for me. Like, my life is still my life. We still gather with the same villages that we still gather with every other kind of day. We still sit around the fire, make a fire, and eat together. We still got to let the goats out and bring them back. None of that changed for us, homie. Like, it's just y'all going nuts. We're cool. And I feel like that has to be taken into consideration. Like, whenever we sit here talk about, like, yo, life has completely changed and, like, the world has changed. No, it hasn't. Your life has completely changed. Like your world has completely changed around you. Like this is what I'm saying. It starts from there, that kind of refusal to want to confront your own mind. It starts as early as literally that first sentence that comes out of your head.
Yeah.
It's, you know, the world has changed. No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't. Yours has.
What, you know, obviously, clearly, who are not even really want to be isolated or even be alone anyway. That's the philosophy that you adapt, and that's the mindset you're going to be growing into continuously.
Right.
You know.
Right.
It's like, this is normal. This ain't normal. Like, this ain't normal. Like, I've never been told that this is normal.
That's what I'm saying. And this
really,
is what I mean. Like,
really dealing with is obviously like a Western mindset, really. Like,
yes. Well, I mean, Western imperial, call it what you want, but it's like it's a point of living in these kinds of environments for the last 100 years, or in our cases, we've only been alive 30 or 40 or 50 or whatever, but only in those years, and we've gotten accustomed to it. But the problem with being accustomed, that's correct. You should get accustomed to your surroundings. It's perfectly correct. You shouldn't walk around baffled by your surroundings all the fucking time. You should get accustomed. But what I'm saying is, being accustomed to your surroundings lends itself to thinking that they could be extended across the board. Like, whatever my surroundings are the surroundings of all people. That's not the case. That slip is that's invalid. That little slide, and you do it all the fucking time, and it's only because there's only you in your own head. So you're only really ever debating yourself. But you never walk around like, I feel mad lonely. But bro, it's just you. But this is what I'm saying. I feel like, with respect to those villages in Libya, whatever else, there's different kinds of loneliness. If we're being specific, different kinds of isolation, different kinds of loneliness. Let's just say they mean different things under different circumstances and different situations. It's not what you think it is. So, for example, I know this is going to sound real stupid. This is going to sound real stupid off bat, but like, yo, take it a second. Just give it a second. Every prophet in human history that we know of, like, you know, recognized prophets, whatever, the ones that y'all know. I'm not going to like talk about religion, but every prophet y'all know, at some point or another, had to fuck off for 40 days or 40 nights or for like a month or so and just be on their own. The Buddha is a perfect, hit the whole time on his own. Just like, yeah, all right, let's figure this shit out. Muhammad, Jesus, I mean, it's the same thing. Like, every single one of these people at some point or another had to go and be on their own in order to be lonely, in order to confront isolation, in order to confront what comes up in the silence of that space. Because it's different. Like, who you are and how you behave and with whom you talk and the language that you employ and the way you understand the world around you, those things are fundamentally different when you're communicating with other people than they are when you're communicating with yourself. I mean, we talk about it all the time. Everybody knows that when you lay your head down at night, it's a different you than the one that's in the office in the morning. We know this. Like, it's not a profound fucking realization. We're not saying anything like, you know, oh, wow, yeah, no, you're right. Who I really am is not who I pretend to be. Yeah, motherfucker, like, yeah. Like, what is that, news? We know this. So what I'm saying is, like, there's a necessary part to this whole isolation thing. There's a necessary feature to it. Like, there's something, listen, and again, I'm not saying these are good circumstances. I know people are dying, people are sick. This isn't a pleasant thing. But for here and now, and insofar as we're speaking to me and you, it ain't you, Mark, thank God, right? And it ain't me, thank God. And it ain't hopefully nobody on this live, and it hopefully ain't none of your families and nobody you know. Like, hopefully, fingers crossed, thank God, God bless, and not would, everybody stay safe. But what I'm saying is, for the time being, while we all stuck indoors and we got to figure ourselves out, there's something to this. There's a benefit to this. And it's not one I feel like I have to tell anybody about. If I'm being honest. Like, it's not one I feel like you have to tell it, or anybody should have to tell anybody about, because it's been known. Like I said, every prophet you know sat down on their own at some point. Every major world leader, like every major figure, like spiritual figure that you know of, at some point sat down on their own.
Yeah. And that's it. I guess what you're saying as well is that the route to liberate that loneliness is through loneliness.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, because you're in bad company.
Yeah.
You need to get to know who the fuck it is that you're alone with that you don't like so much when you're alone with them.
Yeah.
Like, who is that guy? Or girl? Or person? Or thing? Or entity? Or whatever. Whatever it is that's in your head that for whatever reason, when you're alone with them, you don't like the company, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not in comfortable company with my own.
Me and your brother went on a 10-day meditation.
Of course. Of course.
Meditation. So within those 10 days, you had to drop everything, drop all communication from the outside world. You'd be in this, like, if you like, monasteries, you'd be walking around. And the whole point is a silent meditation. So no eye contact, no talking, and you are literally just by yourself. So the whole point of that was obviously to really, really kind of root yourself within.
Right.
But what was funny is after 3 days, all of the chatter in the mind, all of the chatter in your head, and all of those thoughts that you had, which kept you lonely and kept you down and kept you depressed, because you're not confronting them, the things that you thought you were, or the things that you've been living, eventually it will just kind of dissipate, because it is, you're clinging to a time, you're clinging to an identity, you know.
And it's not. Yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, just after obviously 3 days, which funny enough is like a cycle.
Yeah.
After those 3 days, things just become way more clearer, because it's just working with the seasons, you're moving in with the seasons. You know, you don't really get a tree that's turning around and saying it feels lonely or depressed. It's just doing its thing. But it's been standing there its whole existence. I know obviously it's a different level of consciousness, if you like, but basically just it being still, simply being still, simply allows it to overcome anything.
Fam, it's that concept that I love so much. The idea that, and I've quoted this before, it's on the IG page. Y'all have seen it before, if y'all have seen it, if you pay attention or not. But like, I'm going to say it again. It's that same idea I've said a million times, that one finds wisdom when one does not move unless it improves upon stillness, nor speak unless it improves upon silence. Like that concept. The idea that I don't need to move because what's already still is good enough. Yeah. Like the world as it currently is in its stillness is good. It doesn't require my movement. And when it does, it will become apparent. And upon that point, I will move. Yeah. And it doesn't need my voice either. Like until it becomes apparent that it needs my voice and I'm going to say something. Otherwise, I ain't going to say shit. Like for example, I could just as easily have been sat at home right now, not saying a fucking thing, staring at the sky, like doing my work. But you know, we all lonely out here and they want to figure this out. So let's figure this out. Like we kicking it. So what I'm saying is like,
look at it like this concept as well. So we're being told to self-isolate and to stay away. So basically being told to stay lonely, to be by ourselves.
Or to be alone.
Yeah, but why? Purely so we don't contract a disease physically. So if you do the same thing spiritually or mentally, then you're not going to be forming or developing any form of corrupted disease within the mind or within, you know, spiritually as well. It's the same principle.
It's the same. No, I know exactly what you mean. It's the exact same principle. It's the same idea. And this is what I'm saying. It's not something that's unique to like, all right, I know the examples I've given are the obvious ones, but it's not something that's unique to prophets or great spiritual leaders or anything like that. You could be an artist. You could be a writer. You could be a human fucking being and spend extended periods of time in isolation in order to understand the world around you. One of my favorite artists, what's that guy's name? Oscar Kokoschka. Kokoschka did exactly the same thing. My man's a psychopath. Like, I love the guy because he's a fucking nut.
Kokoschka, like, you say he's a painter.
He's a painter. Oscar Kokoschka. He's a painter. A guy was born in like 1886, something like that. Dies in 1980. So he dies when he was, what's my math, like 94 years old or something. So he lives a long time. Not that he wanted to. Not that he wanted to. Like, let's be clear about this. My man did not want to live that long. He did everything in his power to make sure he didn't live that long, and then ended up living that long to his, like, you know, shame. But like, all right, so my man smoked like 2, 3, 4 packs a day every single day of his entire life since he was like 17, 18 years old, and didn't die until he was 94. My man takes a bullet to the lung and a bullet to the head in the middle of a war, and still that doesn't kill him, and continues smoking, and that won't kill him. He's lonely as fuck the whole way throughout the course of his life. He's a painter, but he's lonely. You know how artists are, bro. He's lonely as fuck, right? Like, he needs time to be, like, you know, find his inspiration. So he doesn't hang around with people. He stays indoors all day long. Nevertheless, he's a human being. So what that means is that he ended up with this infatuation with this woman who lived in Vienna with him. What I'm saying is, so he's obsessed. He gets this infatuation over this woman. He becomes like, you know, struck by her. And he don't know how to deal with it because the guy's like an artist. He's like socially awkward. So he can't kind of just go outside and just have a chat and be like, yo, what's up, baby? Give me a number. He don't know what to do. So not that I would do that. Hey, I don't do that. We passed those days. Nobody's walking up to ladies now saying, what's up, baby? Let me get your number. I don't do that. That's not how I move. Chill. All right? Chill. And try to cancel people out here. Chill. But what I'm saying is that he couldn't do that. So what he does is he ends up stalking her, which ain't no better. But my man ends up stalking her for like God knows how long, gets confused, don't know how to deal with it, right? All right, cool. After, I think Mark is like I think our signal's gone. But after he stalks her for a little minute, he ends up in a conversation with the girl, and he tells her who he is and how great he is. She don't believe a word he says, and she ain't impressed by my man. So what she says to him is like, homie, listen, I'm gonna do you a deal. You go home, you create the greatest painting of all time, and maybe I'm gonna think about marrying you. But you gotta do that. That's the standard, my G, because like I'm that good. Like, so you know how women walk around now saying, I'm an independent woman, I know my status and I know what I'm worth. Like, this ain't new. This ain't new. Don't get carried away with yourself. Women been knowing what they were for mad time, but y'all don't know who these people are, so I don't know what to tell you. The point is, so she says, nah, listen, you got to create the greatest painting ever known in history if you want to pop off. Like, if you want to get married to me, it's got to be at least that good, because, like, I'm worth that much. All right, cool. So my man takes it. He's like, bet, let's do this. So he goes home, and he goes nuts. Closes the doors, draws the blinds. He paints his windows black, for real. Paints all his windows black. Paints all his walls black. Closes everything and doesn't leave the room for 3 months or 6 months, some shit. I don't remember how long it is. My man stays in that room, don't move. He has food brought to him by a friend every single day and never leaves the room, stays in that motherfucker, just painting. Because his thing is he doesn't want any interruption. He wants pure silence. He wants pure loneliness. He wants pure isolation in order for him to confront his deepest fucking struggles. You know that space where ain't nothing but literal blackness in your room, windows closed, you don't see nobody, you feel black as fuck, like everything's dark, fam. Dark as fuck, like it's all like horrible and like you hate life and he's trying to get there. He wants to feel that and paint this for this woman. To my man's credit, he does it. Like, to my man's credit. I don't know if y'all are seeing this or not, but if you got a second, or if you ain't got a second, you on my live, you ain't doing shit else. You go to fuck on Google while we're out here right now. Hit up Oscar Kokoschka, look at The Tempest, right? So his painting is called The Tempest. That particular work that he created by Oscar Kokoschka, it's called The Tempest. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece of work. It's like one of the greatest creations I've ever seen in my entire life. Personally, like, I'm not saying I'm an art expert. I don't know shit about art, but what I'm saying is that shit looks amazing to me. Have a look at it. Y'all check it out. See if this does or doesn't qualify as being one of the best pieces of work ever created by an artist. The point is, what I'm trying to get at, he creates this amazing masterpiece, and upon being finished, having spent 3 months in isolation and loneliness, trying to bring himself to the depths of his soul so he can create this thing, he does it, finds this woman, brings it to her. He's like, look, I got this painting for you. What do you think? Shows it to her. Apparently, she looked at it for all of 2 minutes and went, good effort, and walked off.
So she cut him down, right?
Yeah, fam!
It just wasn't the best then.
Yo, Mark. Don't put Mark. Listen, I know. I understand. Listen, I understand that there's like rosiness in your life right now. I understand that you're happy about life right now. I get that things are pretty, but Mark, chill out. She ain't right, homie. Relax.
She was never meant. There was someone else for him.
Just weren't good enough. No, listen. Y'all have a look at the picture. Tell me if it was good enough. For real. I think it's amazing.
I'm kidding, man.
The Tempest by Oscar Kokoschka.
Tempest.
The Tempest by Oscar Kokoschka. What I'm saying is, so the guy creates this thing. The point is that he deliberately and consciously throws himself into the depths of isolation and loneliness in order for him to confront exactly what's at the worst parts of himself, the most pained, most vulnerable, most, like, I don't know, insecure parts of himself. That's exactly what he wants to get in touch with, and does so deliberately. It's a conscious effort, like, you know, closing all the blinds and painting everything black and God knows what else. He's not exactly setting himself with a pleasant environment. He's deliberately trying to make this difficult. You know what I'm saying? And he wants to express that in art. Yo, Mark. Yeah, exactly. That's why you were the engineer, bro. That's why you were the engineer. You do your thing. You let the world know. Look at this thing. Look at this thing. Like, y'all can't tell me this isn't one of the greatest things you've ever seen. You can't tell me. I don't believe nobody if y'all gonna tell me this is not one of the greatest things I've ever seen. This is amazing. This shit is amazing. And to do this in a darkened room over the course of 3 months because one person told you, oh, listen, it has to be the greatest thing in the world. If you want to marry me, I don't know what to tell you. That's just what it's got to be.
Come up with that, right? I mean, if she was never meant for him or whatever, at least he's got that to show for it.
Bruh, I think her name was, all right, so look, I'm going to kick the name now that we called her mad other names up into her. So her name, I think, somebody needs to check this to see if I'm wrong here, but I think the girl that he was talking to was Lou Salome. If it was Lou Salome, yo, that woman one of the greatest females on planet Earth ever. Don't nobody ever talk about this woman, but we out here going, oh, I'm an independent woman. I know, don't nobody know who the fuck Lou Salome is, who's been an independent woman since 18-something, teaching men and women how to be independent out here and be geniuses and like blow the world away. But we out here, who's our heroes? Fucking Rihanna. Not that there's anything wrong with Rihanna. Hey, I love Rihanna. We all love Rihanna. Fenty is the one. We all love Rihanna. Ain't nobody got no beef with Rihanna. We all love Rihanna. But I'm just saying, we had Lou Salome. Y'all had like mad, like epic females in the course of history. We on fucking Lady Gaga. Yeah, that's the one. I can take Lady Gaga. No. Rihanna's cool. Lady Gaga. I'll go with that. That's better than Rihanna. I like Rihanna, man. He's a good. But my point is, the idea of going into that kind of isolation, of deliberately putting yourself in that mode of consciously trying to confront that kind of pain, that kind of suffering, that kind of struggle, is because there's a value to that isolation. It's not as though like being lonely is an alien concept to human beings, and one that you need to be rid of. Like, I feel like we're really setting ourselves short. Like, for real, we are really setting ourselves short as human fucking beings. If we genuinely think our only function, your Marcus walked the fuck away, but that's cool. I got y'all. But no, I'm joking, I'm playing with you. But I feel like we're setting ourselves short as human beings if we genuinely think that like our sole function is to walk around out here and just be happy all the time. Like, I'm not supposed to feel lonely. I'm not supposed to feel isolated. I'm not supposed to feel insecure. I'm not supposed to struggle. I'm not supposed to hate myself sometimes. I'm not supposed to hate the world sometimes. You are supposed to hate the fucking world sometimes. Like, I don't know if anybody else has noticed. It's shit out here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's just me. It's shit out here, fam. Like, yo, look the fuck outside. And I'm not talking about coronavirus. I'm talking about pre-coronavirus, when we felt lonely anyway. Shit was terrible out here. Like, most of the population isn't earning enough for them to survive. Most of the population, 63% of the population, latest statistics were showing before the coronavirus, was 4 weeks away from the breadline. That's 2/3 of the population. 4 weeks off the breadline. Nothing was fun out here in the first place. And I'm not just talking about the UK. Shit's hard everywhere. Like, life is hard, fam. I don't think that everybody's supposed to be walking around being like laffy-daffy happy all day long. Because what? I don't want to feel lonely. Feel fucking lonely. No, feel lonely. Nah, sit with it. Now sit with it 5 minutes. Like, I don't understand how you're supposed to consider yourself a fully formed fucking human being with sufficient authority. Nah, take this for real. With sufficient authority and education to speak to your youngers. For real though, I mean this for real, because I do this. Like, whichever one of y'all students is still here, y'all can speak to this. I do this. I don't know how, as an adult or as like an aging human being, you feel like you have the authority or the wherewithal to tell the youngers anything, but you've been dodging your loneliness your whole fucking life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, come on, man, be real though. No, but be real. Like, when a teenager's going through their teenage angst and that bullshitty thing that teenagers usually go through, which is normal for teenagers to go through. And then you get the adults trying to advise them about how the fuck to get out of that or deal with it. But these adults are people who never dealt with it.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, shit got lonely, and what you do? You went on Instagram 5 more minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Shit got lonely, and what you do? You went on YouTube 5 more minutes. Shit got isolated, and what you do? Text your best friend. Like, homie, sit the fuck down with it for 5 minutes.
A big problem as well is obviously it's like that instant gratification of one thing or another because you don't want to have to face your loneliness, you know?
Bruh, listen, let me just say this.
But like, again, same argument. Like, be bored. Just literally be bored.
Be bored.
Be bored. Just sit and be bored for a bit.
Just have nothing to do for 5 fucking minutes. Have nothing to do for an hour. And stare at the ceiling.
Yeah.
Like, see what you learn about your fucking self.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't understand. And this is what drives me crazy, is that you are stuck with that self your whole life. That's just, it's you and you. It's you and you. Your entire life. And your entire life, if we're being honest, like, come on, I said this at the outset, and if we're being completely honest, your entire life, you have felt some kind of loneliness, you have felt some kind of isolation, you have felt some kind of, like, insecurity at some point or another in the course of your life. This has happened. And I don't think any one of us, if we keep it a beam, we keep it 100, keep it a buck, like, no bullshit, no lying, whatever else, if we get past the bullshit, if we speak honestly, frankly, ain't nobody out here 100% past it. Nobody.
Yeah. This just says the same thing, actually, right? Okay, so loneliness is normal, it's universal through time and culture. I'm guessing what you're saying is stop fetishing and this feeling and this feeling.
Wait, she said, I'm guessing what you're saying is what?
Stop fetishing and this feeling stop fetishing this feeling and sit in it.
Yeah, basically. I mean, effectively. Look, listen. If for no other reason, then you ain't got much other choice right now.
Yeah.
Like, you really ain't got much other choice right. I don't know what the fuck else you were supposed to do. Like, it ain't like you were gonna go outside and meet your homies. You weren't. And it ain't like you were gonna spend all day long like doing something else. You weren't. And you know the strange, crazy thing is everybody's been talking about how they wish they had more time for them to dedicate themselves to the things that they wanted to do. Now everybody's got more time to dedicate themselves to the things they want to do. Ain't no one doing shit. Again, I'm myself included. I'm not like this. I'm not excluding myself from this conversation. But none of us, if we're being honest, none of us are really doing as much as we wish we could be doing, or like as much as we think we could be doing in the circumstances where there ain't nothing required of you.
Yeah, yeah.
If we're being honest, like I'm past the bullshit. I'm past the whole like let's be like softly politically correct. No, fuck all that noise. We're past that. We were stuck in our houses. The site is collapsing around us. We can't be honest now. I don't know when the fuck we're gonna be honest. I'm past the whole like let's be nice to each other. Past it. If we ain't gonna speak honestly now, time is up.
Saying that though, I mean that's a good point. Missy just said, should the feeling of loneliness be shared or shared/expressed?
Yes.
Going on that note.
Yes, but only listen. Here's my thing. I feel like the feeling of loneliness should be shared and expressed, but insofar as every feeling should be shared and expressed.
Yeah.
Like it's not a special one amongst them. You know what I'm saying? Like feeling lonely is not a special feeling amongst all the other feelings that you have. Feeling isolated is not one unique feeling amongst all the other feelings you have. It's just one that comes up a lot more often than you might like it to, and it's a little more painful than you might like it to be. Cool, but that's just a measure of how little you fucking dealt with it. Like I'm not saying any of us have. I'm not saying I have. I'm not saying that I've dealt with it and I'm past it now, so I don't feel lonely and I'm lambasting everybody else for still feeling that way. I fucking haven't. But I'm being like honest about it. Like, can we just be upfront about the bullshit and stop hiding? Like, what the fuck? Like, I feel like we all adults, everybody's like a grown human being, and we all, at one stage or another, have younger people who are looking for guidance from us. Like, particularly now. When, like I was saying beforehand, Mark, you weren't here at the start of this when you were watching me be lonely and isolated. But what I was saying at the outset is that last poll that I put up for us to decide what our topic of conversation was going to be today, the last poll I put up was really interesting because the split ended up being 50-50. Like, okay, overall, over the course of the week, this was the subject that went out like by a landslide because of the other two polls before it. But on the last day, yesterday, this ended up being a 50-50 split. What was really interesting about that split was that 50% were the ones that wanted to talk about the other subject, which is not this, like they wanted to talk about study and whatever else, all of my students. Mm-hmm. That is to say they were all like 17, 18, 16, whatever, 19 years old human beings. Every fucking body else older than that, now I'm feeling lonely. Let's talk about loneliness. Like, what I'm saying is that they're the ones who are looking for guidance right now. They're the ones, the younger ones are the ones who are looking for guidance right now. We, by definition, know more about the world than they do. We, by definition, have navigated more of this space than they have. We, by definition, know more about how to navigate this space than they do. That's kind of why we guide them. That's kind of why there are laws about you can't do shit until you're 18 years old, because you don't know shit, which is fair enough. I'm not saying that's wrong. But what I'm saying is I feel like it's a little weird. Like, we're selling ourselves short, bro. I feel like it's a little weird when we're saying to these kids, like, who are struggling and confused and they don't know what to do with their life, and we haven't dealt with our own loneliness. Like, I got kids asking me about their examinations and study, but the adults are saying, I feel lonely and isolated. Homie, how do you think the kid feels?
Yeah. But then that's our responsibility as elders, isn't it? I mean, that's something that we deal with our loneliness at a certain age. We would deal with it at the right age, what we're meant to have through rites of passage, initiation. We know what that is. We can deal with our loneliness going throughout it. And therefore, we put it on. We're technically at an age where we're meant to be actually showing young people how to deal with that loneliness.
Yeah.
Or we even be able to do that ourselves.
Yeah. There's this joke from this neurologist. Guy goes to India, right? And while he's in India, he's there to study. He was there studying meditation. He wanted to see what the effect of meditation was on the mind, chemically and otherwise. Cool. So he's in India looking at the great meditation masters, studying their brains, whatever. Cool. One day he's in a cab, and as he's driving along in his cab, mad crowded streets, mad crowded place, and people everywhere as you can imagine. It's like Mumbai or something. And as they're driving through this crowd, he sees a different procession going in the opposite direction and cutting across the crowd, right? But that procession seems to be carrying a body, like live, uncovered. like a not live, like dead homie, but like uncovered, just on their shoulders, just walking through the crowd, right? So here's the neurologist in the back of the cab, staring at the cab driver and staring at the body that's just outside the cab and freaking himself out because he don't know what's going on, right? And then while he's freaking out, this body gets close and starts coming right past the window of the cab. So he loses his shit. At some point, he turns to the cab driver. He's like, taps the cab driver on the shoulders. Yeah, yo, homie. Yo, real quick. Cab driver turns around. He's like, yeah, bro, that's like a real body and shit? Like, that's a dead person? Like, they just walking a dead person through the town like this? Like, this is normal over here? Like, what the hell is going on? Cab driver turns around, looks back at him and says, yes. And he goes, and that's normal? Cab driver looks at him again and goes, in India, life includes death. No problem. In India, life includes death. No problem. See the idea? Over there, I ain't scared of dying. It's not that like I shouldn't have fear associated with it or whatever else. That's not the point. It's that I'm not scared of it. In the sense that, bruv, it includes death. Who was born that didn't die?
Mm-hmm. So if that's the case, then if you're not scared, if you're not scared of death, if you face death every day and you know death every day, then what are you left to be scared of?
But this is what I'm saying to you. It's the concept. It's never mind like in your life. Like never mind whether or not these people are experiencing death on a day-to-day basis. I'm not saying that if you live in India, you have to see more dead people than otherwise. But never mind that conceptually, the way we're approaching the world is fundamentally different. In that case, what I'm saying is I understand that life includes death. It was part and parcel of the conversation. I didn't hide it away. I didn't tuck it somewhere else. I didn't put the cemetery in the corner of the town where the doors closed and made it a weird social taboo to just happen to walk through there. I didn't do that. I didn't hide it. I didn't dress everybody in black and tell everybody to be silent when the dead body walks through the town. I didn't do none of that because death happens. Like, I don't know what to tell you. It happens on a daily basis. It happens all the fucking time. Like somebody was saying the other day, it was on LBC or something like that, and they were freaking out about the fact that, well, you know, the difference is now it doesn't really feel like we're on holiday now because I know we're not really going to work and whatnot, and we don't have to do any jobs and whatever else, but it don't really feel like I'm on holiday because like there's loads and loads of people dying on a regular basis, and the number of people dying is making me really nervous, mate. So I don't really know if I can feel like I'm on a holiday because like there's dead people everywhere, mate. It makes me feel funny, mate. Right, cool. Here's what bugs me about this. Here's what bugs me. No, listen. I understand. Again, there's a sentimentality involved in it, and I don't think it's wrong. Like, it seems like there's something inherently disrespectful to say that I want to be in a holiday spirit when I know there's a mass virus that's killing people left, right, and center. So, yes, I don't disagree with the sentiment. I feel like the sentiment makes sense. But here's why I think this is funny. Because when wasn't that the case? Like, every single time, every time you go away on holiday, every time you go and chill, how many motherfuckers are dying on that day? No, fuck that. No. Let's not be broad. Let me take the hat back off, bro. I'm getting warm in this bitch. No, listen. Let's kick some real shit. No, but we passed bullshit. This is post-bullshit conversation, right? So we passed all that noise. Let's be real. How many motherfuckers, myself included, me and my brown-ass self included, how many motherfuckers took a holiday in the middle of the Iraq War? I'm just saying, how many people took a holiday in the middle of the Iraq War? Like, and how many people felt like I couldn't take a holiday because there's mad people dying right now? British soldiers included. But I ain't feel like that was a valid reason for me not to go not to go on holiday. And when I went on holiday, I ain't feel like it was a valid reason for me to not celebrate. When it was my birthday, I still celebrated. I feel like that was true for most people.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like we stopped because, like, we killing mad people. We killed 60,000 people in Fallujah in a week.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can we just get this straight? In a week.
Again, it literally comes back to, the culture that we live in. Because when in history have we ever stopped?
This is insane.
People ever stopped dying, and how close we've obviously always lived with it. Look at like World War II. Like, people still work, they still have to do these things. But then even before that, even just in this one country by itself, just this one country, Victorian time, people dying on the street every single day, in front of you.
What I'm saying. This is what I'm saying.
It becomes, like I say, obviously it becomes covered up, but this is continuing around the world every single day. 2.5 million people die every quarter of hunger.
Exactly. And again, let's be clear here, because we've got people watching, and we've got to be responsible. Let's be clear. We are not saying that the coronavirus is not serious. It's serious. Can we be clear about that? We are not saying that you should ignore it because whatever, like, you know, people die every day. Let's be clear about that. You should not ignore it. Please be fucking prudent. Please stay the fuck at home. Please do the right fucking thing, because there's no need for you to go and kill somebody else because you're a dumbass, because you felt like, hey, look, people die every day. It's not that. I'm not saying that, listen, people die every day, so it's calm. We could just go outside because, like, fuck it, people die every day. That's not what we're saying.
No, of course.
That's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that people die every day, and at no point do we pause to think about it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's only when it becomes you.
Yeah.
When it's like when you personally feel like you're under threat, when you feel like your situation isn't great, when you feel like you can't go outside no more, or you can't see your friends, or you can't go from one spot to the next, now you feel away.
It's simply the disassociation of death that makes us fear, that puts us in loneliness, and within this isolation, just simply the fact that we don't have that concept of death. We don't understand the concept of death. We don't want to.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, think about it, right? Just consider that. The idea that you struggle being on your own, right? And when you're on your own, you only think about your mortality, or you only feel uncomfortable when your circumstances get difficult. Never mind everybody else who's dying on a regular basis. I'm a fucking refugee. Like, I know all about what happens when motherfuckers are bombing your country and they don't give a fuck about it. I know all about that shit. We're comfortable with it. We're doing it on a daily basis now anyway. There's nothing new here. But what I'm saying is, that doesn't bother us until it comes home to us, and then we start worrying. But, and this is what I'm complaining about, and this is what I mean, this is how it ties into loneliness. Even then, now we all stuck at home, we ain't got shit to do, everyone's feeling lonely, everyone's feeling isolated, everyone's struggling with one concept or another, everyone's got one issue or another, ain't no one want to confront their mortality. No one. We're all on here because we're trying to find ways of distracting or avoiding the issue. Let's keep it honest.
Mm-hmm.
Like, come on, that's why the fuck we here. Like, that's why the fuck we here. Ain't no one getting paid off of this shit. No one's kind of like making their lives better. Like, that's why we here. We all bored. We all want to connect. We all want to reach out to other human beings. We all want to have a moment where we can sit down together and explain things to one another and have some sense of community and some sense of communion. I support that. I feel like that's fucking valid. We ought to have some sense of community and communion, especially now, particularly when they've given us the technologies to do it and haven't realized what they've done. We should certainly do that. I ain't gonna be for that. But what I'm saying is, even now, when it has come to your fucking door and you ain't got shit else to do but look at life, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yo, you seen that TikTok video?
I have.
Nah, you know, shit's hilarious, man. Yeah, because like what happens? My man does this dance for 4 seconds and it doesn't end the way it's supposed to. Shit's funny as fuck, man. Nah, I gotta tell you, like, I feel like all my issues with loneliness and isolation just washed away in that TikTok video. All of them. You know what? If I watch enough TikTok videos, I ain't never feel lonely again. I'm gonna feel connected forever. Like, y'all are stupid. Like, that's just stupid. Like, can we just be honest? And again, I'm including myself. I'm the one on the fucking live. The point is, it's just, there's a, as hard as this situation is, right? If we're being honest, like, apart from all the jokes and whatever else, if we're being honest, as hard as these circumstances are, as difficult as this situation may be, and as lonely and as isolated as we may happen to feel right now, those feelings aren't negative.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not inherently. Those feelings aren't things we need to do away with. Those feelings aren't feelings that we kind of like are alien to our human experience. They're fundamental to what it means to be an I. And as wrong as that is, or as difficult as that is to be an I or to have an I, it's a fundamental feature of it, to feel lonely. And believe me, let me just say this. You don't want to avoid loneliness your entire life and then have like that big crash of fucking loneliness the moment before you die. No,
of course. Absolutely.
You don't want to do that. That's terrifying. Let me just say that right now. That shit is terrifying. You do not want to do that. You do not want to spend your whole life dodging loneliness and dodging the feelings of isolation, so that in the last moments of your life, when you feel real lonely and real fucking isolated because it's really only you dealing with this, then it's like all crashing down on you. You don't know how to deal with yourself. You don't want to do that.
Orson Welles, he wrote in one of his films, I think, doesn't say it. But basically, Orson Welles, he goes, "We're born alone, we live alone, we die alone. Only through our love and friendship can we create the illusion for the moment that we are not alone."
There you go. But actually, that's a good point. No, hold up, that's a really good point. Because I feel like there's a nice move in there. What do you say was that last half of that? Read that again.
So yeah, we're born alone,
Right.
we live alone, and we die alone.
Preach.
Only through our love and friendship can we create the illusion for the moment that we are not alone.
Preach.
All
right, look.
One more time for the
kick it. Yo, run that back. Yo, DJ, run that back.
We're born alone, we live alone, and we die alone. Only through our love and friendship can we create the illusion for the moment that we are not alone.
There's something in that. And I think there's something in that with respect to not the other people. Like, I don't mean there's something that in this, I don't mean there's something in that in the sense that we should all go make friends with mad people in order to get over our loneliness and isolation. What I mean by that is that you could turn that same love, that same compassion, that same friendship, you could turn that shit inwards. And I don't, let's be clear, I do not mean love thyself. I don't mean that. I hate that shit. I don't mean that. I don't mean be yourself. I don't know what the fuck yourself is. I don't mean that. I don't mean you should love yourself. I don't mean you should be yourself. I don't mean you should think of yourself as the most important person in your world. You are not the most important person in your world or anybody's world for that matter. You don't mean shit. You are not important. You are not special. I don't give a fuck about you. I don't know why you give a fuck about you. I don't give a fuck about me. It's got nothing to do with any of that. It's not that. You turn it inwards because if you are lonely, when you're alone, you're in bad company. That company becomes better company when you are a nice host. I'm just saying. Like there's this Buddhist quote that says that when a thief enters your house, you should invite them in. Like when a thief tries to enter your house, you should invite him in. Why? Because if I invite him in, it's not a thief anymore, is he? That's a guess now. More to the point, if I'm a thief, now think about it. If I just put yourself in the position of a thief. If I'm the thief, I'm trying to bust in your house. I'm gonna steal some shit home. I swear to God, I'm gonna get this shit. So I'm trying to bust in your house. I'm not trying to kill nobody. I just want to steal some shit. That's why I'm busting your house. All right, cool. Do you bust in the house, right? I'm trying to steal some shit. But as you smashing on the window, I turn up, open the window, mad calm, be like, yo, what's up? Yo, homie, I steal your shit. All right, bro. You could have just knocked at the front door and asked. Like most human beings come to the front door, my G. I don't know why you come into the, maybe it's a cultural thing. And in your culture, y'all come to the window. I don't know. It's a thieving thing. Like thieves come to the window. I don't know what to tell you, homie. But I ain't judging you. Have a seat. What you after? I need that TV. Take it. Nah, but take it. And everyone's like, yeah, but that's my shit. Like I bought, bruv, you bought it. He ain't got it. Take it. No, but you see what I'm saying? I ain't a thief no more. I ain't a thief now. That's a guess. Plus, he's baffled to fuck now. Like, he don't know what the fuck is going on. So what I'm saying is that you are only lonely when you're alone if you treat that person you're alone with as though they are bad company. If you're not a good host. Like, just be good to your fucking, who you hosting. And all I'm saying by that is, again, I'm not saying love yourself. Fuck yourself. I don't like yourself. You don't like yourself. You shouldn't like yourself. Fuck yourself. It's boring as fuck. But what I'm saying is that self, that isolation, right? That sense of loneliness, that sense of trepidation, that sense of anxiety, that sense of dislike, insecurity, whatever the particular nuance of your particular version of that feeling may happen to be, can be met with compassion. Mm-hmm. It can be met with compassion. And I mean this in a really particular way, because I don't mean for a person to become schizophrenic and say to themselves, I'm going to love that other entity that pops up in my mind and treat them nicely as though I'm treating a separate guest. I'm not trying to make people kind of split their minds into two bodies. There's a real nice way of summing this up. I don't know if y'all are listening. Look, you know how y'all know this is serious? Look what's happening. Look what just happened. Now y'all know this is serious. Now we kicking game. Now you know it's bars. Basically. You know when the hat comes on? When the hat comes on, now y'all know there's bars coming. That's what this is. Hat came on. Bars. Bars are coming, blood. Shit. Kicking fire right here. All right, so no, listen. There's this real simple story. And I had somebody ask me this question on Quora. I've got a funny story for you about Quora as well. In a second, I'll tell you about how annoying Quora is. But the point, Quora been trying to get me kicked off for so long. But the point is there's this real simple story. Picture this. Picture a village sitting on a hilltop. Any village. I don't give a fuck who the people are. the picture of a village sitting on a hilltop, right? Insofar as that village is on a hilltop, they position themselves in order for them to be as far away from their enemies as possible. People who may want to raid the village, people who may want to steal from the village, people who may want to harm the village. So they put themselves as high up on that hilltop as they possibly can so they can avoid other human beings, avoid contact. Not too dissimilar from our situation right now, not too dissimilar from my situation when I was in Spain, where we're sitting in isolation trying to get away from other people as much as possible. So there's a village sitting on a hilltop trying to avoid potential danger. And part of their avoidance of danger is they've got a bell in the village as a warning system. So if anybody comes along, any danger comes up, or anything terrible looks like it's on the horizon, to make a ring a bell and everybody can move correctly. All right, cool. But there's a design flaw. The design flaw is you live on a fucking hilltop. It's windy. It's a fucking hilltop. I don't know what to tell you. It's windy as fuck up here. When I was living in Spain and when I was lonely and isolated in Spain, I was doing my thing going crazy. I was on a hilltop. For real, I was on a hilltop. One of my students in here, two of my students in here, hopefully can testify to that because it was their house, it was their parents' house. I was fucking living it. No one else was there, so it was calm. It was between me, the rats, and the lizards. But the point is, it's a hilltop, so it's windy as fuck, right? Now, what's the problem with it being windy as fuck? Fam, the bell rings all day. I mean, it's windy. You live on a hilltop. You got a bell set up to warn you about impending danger or any risks coming to the town. But because it's windy, the bell rings all fucking day. Now, the interesting thing is, that doesn't mean that everybody in the village comes running outside their fucking houses to check what the danger is every time the wind blows. You see what I mean? Let me explain. You deal with that noise with compassion. It's that compassion. I don't mean love it. I don't mean love yourself. It's that compassion. It's the way you treat the fucking wind and the noise coming past you. You acknowledge it. You recognize it. It may even mean something to you. It may even inspire an artistic moment. It may even be a moment of reflection. It may just feel nice. It may just be a cool breeze. I don't fucking care, homie. But what I'm saying is it doesn't offend you. Though it can be dangerous. Though it might signal harm to come. When the bell is ringing, it may signal something coming.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
It reminds me of
you
say that. There's in the Tao Te Ching.
Yeah.
There's one of the teachings, number 56. It's called the virtue of silence.
Yes.
And it goes, those who know do not talk. Those who talk do not know. Stop talking. Block off your senses. Meditate in silence. Release your worries, blunt your sharpness, and untie your knots. Soften your glare, harmonize your inner light, and unite the world into one whole. This is the primal union of secret embrace.
Yes,
One
sir.
who knows this secret is not moved by attachment or aversion.
Yes, sir.
By profit or loss.
Yes, sir.
By honor or disgrace.
Yes, sir.
The one is far behind the cares of men, yet comes to hold the dearest place in their heart. This, therefore, is the highest state of man.
Yes, sir.
So it's got it all there, like profit, loss,
Preach!
grace.
Preach! Preach! Amen, bro. No, I'm with you 100%. I'm with you 100%. All right, so look, I'll break this down to two more simple ways, all right? What I mean about dealing with this loneliness and isolation, there's really two ways to break it down further. There's one more analogy we can draw, but there's a really practical thing that we could talk about too, right? And it's just literal steps. There's literal steps, and it's real simple. It's something everybody can do. It's not complicated. We can all do this whenever we want to. We can all take 5 minutes to just go through this process, and I promise you, it's the easiest fucking thing in the world. Like, it don't involve nothing. You do it from sitting in your bed when you wake up in the morning. Let me walk through this, right? Real simple. First and foremost, the analogy. When I'm talking about dealing with isolation with compassion, think about the way, another nice analogy is, think about the way a mother deals with her children when they're playing in the sand. They make sand castles, they make up stories, they create fictional games for them to play, they play characters and whatever else. And the mother might even get involved in that game. Because, like, you know, she wants her kids to have fun. Cool. But the mother knows it's a game. See what I'm saying? She gets involved. She puts her whole heart into it. She really gets involved in the game. She really plays with the kids because she really wants to entertain them. They really want to have fun. But she knows it's a game. So when time comes, all right, no, clean up, we got to go home. You see what I'm saying? Clean up, it's time to go home. We got chores to do.
Mm-hmm.
Clean up, it's time to do something else because this ain't real. So you could treat it with compassion. The same, when that isolation, that loneliness appears in a person's mind, you can treat it the same way a mother would treat those children. Play with it. Play with it. Some part of you wants to feel lonely. Feel lonely with it. Feel lonely with it. Some part of you wants to feel isolated and feel insecure. Feel insecure with it. Like, shit ain't gonna kill you. Like, it's not like you haven't felt lonely and isolated in the past. You've been through this. Kick it again, but play with it. Like, let it feel isolated, let it feel lonely, but play with it, knowing full well there's more serious things in the world than your feeling of loneliness and isolation. Knowing full well that this, like all other things, will pass. Knowing full well that this, like all other things, is not permanent. And insofar as that's the case, you, like the mother, know that we could play this game of loneliness and isolation for now. I can entertain your feelings of pain and suffering for the time being, but at some point, someone's got to clean the fucking kitchen. Shit gets serious out here. Mortality's a thing. That's a thing. Like, it's a thing. Don't fucking bullshit me. So we could be lonely and isolated for 5-10 minutes. We could do that and entertain the game. Nothing wrong with it. And treat it with compassion. The way a mother would treat her children who are playing a game that's just silly. She knows it ain't a real game. She knows it ain't important, but she's going to look after them and play with them. She's going to teach it like it means, she's going to play it like it means something to them. And she's going to really get involved because she wants them to have fun. Hell, anybody who's ever worked with a kid or played with a kid knows exactly how that works. You get involved in the game. But you do not take that shit home with you. And in fact, when the kids get into an argument over the game, that's what you preach to them. What you tell them is, look, this ain't that serious. Y'all can't get this mad over a silly game. Why? Because you know better. What do you know better? This shit's more important than that. But when you go home at night and feel insecure and feel lonely, what do you say yourself? You don't remind yourself that shit gets more serious than that. You just sit there and go, I feel lonely. No, play with it though. Give it 5 minutes and go.
How many times have you been lonely in your life that now you're not? You know?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
It's seasonal. How many times have you been angry and now you're not?
And then it passed.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's all feelings are seasonal, you know. It's a seasonal thing. It's just something.
Bruh, it's crazy. Like, how long have you been yourself and not realized that yourself changes? That how many times have you had an emotion? How many times have you had a crisis and not realized that it is temporal? And that I'm saying, no matter how difficult it may happen to be, no matter how much work may be necessary in order for you to confront and overcome the circumstances that you happen to be confronted with at the time being, they will pass.
Yeah.
Because all things do. And I'm not saying that makes the process any easier, but what I'm saying is it puts it into a fucking context. It will pass. You play with a game the way you play with the kids, homie. It will pass. This ain't the end. This ain't the story. It's much bigger than this. Been mad humans before you. There'll be mad humans after you. You are not the be-all and end-all. Trust me. You aren't even the be-all and end-all of your own life. But anyway, that's the analogy. There is real practical, simple steps that we could kick to figure this shit out. There's simple things that we could all do, real practical things that we could do to get that mind quiet, silent. Let's say silent, right? Let's say to get it to the point where those feelings of isolation, those feelings of loneliness, those feelings of frustration, anxiety, and whatever else that a person may happen to be suffering with at this time, however real that may happen to be, I'm not demeaning or diminishing any of that. Like, I understand these are real emotions. I'm just saying there's ways of dealing with it. But whatever it is that we happen to be suffering through, whatever it is that we happen to be going through at the time being, there are very simple, straightforward steps that we could all take just to mitigate the struggle a little bit. It's like taking a whole soother when you got a cold. You know, it ain't gonna cure shit, but it's gonna make your throat feel a little better. Like, that's all I'm saying. Like, I'm definitely not gonna stop you feeling lonely. That's not gonna happen. And let me say this straight up. Any motherfucker out here, and this will happen, any motherfucker out here on Instagram or otherwise, on Zoom or everywhere else, saying they know how to fix you and make you feel more self-confident and take away your loneliness, they lying. They are lying. Loneliness is a fucking human condition. You will not escape it. It's a lie. It will work for 5-10 minutes once they got your money, and then you're going to go home and feel lonely in 2 weeks and feel like it was your fault. It's a lie. So I'm not selling you the bullshit. I ain't saying I'm going to fix your fucking loneliness. You're going to be lonely. Sorry. Sorry. I hate to have to kick it to you that's straight, but you're going to be lonely. This going to happen again. Like, you might feel good this evening, you might feel good tomorrow, and you might feel good next week, but you're going to be lonely again. I hate to kick it to you like that, but that's just what it is, huh? Like, that's life. I ain't here to lie to nobody. You're going to feel like shit at some point. Other people that you love and care about are going to pass you. You're going to feel like shit. That's going to happen. Like, I don't know. Just be straight about it. So, given that, we can mitigate it. There are simple, straightforward steps that motherfucker take in order to just deal with the mind a little bit better. I'm just talking about coping with the monkey mind, like the feelings of insecurity and loneliness that just pop up, and just coping with it better. So look, the mind is a real simple thing. like everything else, it responds to stimulation. We can say that as a matter of fact. Just as a simple baseline from which we can start, the mind, like all other organs, like all other things, responds to stimulation. So consider that when you wake up, this is what I mean by this being simple. You could do this first thing in the morning. Just when you wake up in the morning, you wake up and your eyes, like you were just having a dream or whatever else, you're just woken up, and it's that first few seconds of like recognizing in consciousness where you are, right? So you wake up, and then your mind starts getting stimulated by your surroundings. So maybe the light is streaming through the window, maybe there's a sound of a TV still blaring, maybe there's music you left on from last night, maybe there's a smell of something cooking in the kitchen, maybe there's a smell of something outside the window, I don't know, but your mind is being stimulated by its surroundings, right? That's the first, let's call that first stimulation the first action, all right? It's the first action. The second step, the second action, is the recognition of that stimulation. So first, eyes open, and you start being stimulated by surroundings. Second, you realize what's going on. So, oh, I just woke up, I'm in my bedroom, here's what's going on, here's what I smell, here's what I see, here's what I need to do today, da-da-da. Those are that's the reaction. So you've realized that this has happened. That's step 2. Step 3, the response. This is the third action. The response. That is to say, case in point, and this happens every morning to everybody on here. Nobody can lie and tell me this doesn't happen to y'all. This happens every fucking morning to everybody here. Y'all wake up in the morning, you sit in bed for a couple minutes or however long it is, and then at some point, I should get breakfast. That happens. Because, like, I don't know, you feel a little hungry, or you feel like there's something you got to do in the rest of the day today, or whatever else. I'm not going to eat later, so I've got to eat now, or whatever else, or how am I going to get breakfast? Whatever you're wondering is, that occurs to you at some point. Stomach rumbles, feel hungry. I should go get something. That's step 3. That's response. So what I'm saying is, first stimulation, then reaction, stimulation, then recognition, then response, right? It's those 3 steps. You're stimulated when you wake up, then you recognize that stimulation, and then you respond to it. Now, step 3 here, not these 2, but this is the only one that's responsible for perpetuating the activity or the noise in your head that makes you feel anxious. It's that 3rd step, right? And you know this because you went into meditation, so you know how this works. Like, I ain't telling you anything you don't already know, but like, it's that 3rd thing. So it's not the stimulation that happens. It's not the recognition of the stimulation that's natural. It's the response to it. Mm-hmm. It's that 3rd one. And it's that 3rd one that generates all of that activity. So once I've responded to it, I need to go have breakfast. In the course of my having breakfast, or in the course of my preparing my breakfast, or in the course of my doing whatever it is that I do in the course of my day, a whole bunch of other thoughts are now stimulated that I now have to respond to. And then I start responding to those 2 and start chasing it down. By the end of the day, if you look back at the course of your day, the whole day happened because you started a narrative that you then followed for the course of that day. It's what we call a plan, right? You wake up in the morning, you got a plan, or you got a schedule, you got whatever else, and you do those things. That narrative that you start, you chase for the rest of that day, and then it ends basically where it started off. And then you come home feeling like dissatisfied and unsure. Obviously, you've been doing the same fucking shit all day, but never mind. You're chasing noise in your head. But okay, cool. So, in order to still that 3rd thing, you only need to observe the process, right? It's just that. You don't have to still it. Don't still it. I'm not saying, again, I'm not preaching crazy shit out here. I'm not talking about how we can all change and improve our lives and like you can never again be lonely or you'll never again feel suffering. Or I know, fuck all that noise. You're going to suffer, bro. Like you're going to suffer and you're going to feel lonely. I don't know what to tell you. But there are steps you can take to mitigate. And one of them is very simple. It's just the observation of those 3 stages. Why does this work? 1, because observation replaces the response. You see what I mean? So rather than responding, stimulation, recognition, and response, rather than responding immediately as a consequence of recognition and stimulation, you observe. That observation buys you time. Now you pause for a second. So it becomes routine and habitual for you to pause in order to observe rather than to immediately move. Don't just jump forward the next fucking thing you got to do and then chase it up for the rest of the day. Now take a minute. Sit. Look at it. Do I need to do this? Mm-hmm. Just look at it. But I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying fucking look at it. Now, it's the disciplined repetition of that process, the disciplined repetition of that observation that will reduce over time the compulsion to perform the 3rd action. Why? Because after a long enough period of time, the only remaining motivation will be to observe. What is left is a silent mind, or what's equivalent to the sound of wind blowing through a hilltop village. When I said I have bars, yo, when I said I have bars, bro, when I said I have bars. It's the equivalent to the sound of wind blowing through a hilltop village. Bars. I'm just saying. Like, shit gets crazy out here. I'm just saying. Look, all I'm trying to say is it's that process, right? It's that process of practice, repetition, and it's very, very simple. It doesn't require any activity. It doesn't require you to better yourself as a human being. It doesn't mean you have to get up and do yoga every morning. It doesn't mean that you have to eat Special K and change your diet because you're not the right kind of person. It doesn't mean you need to lose those 25 pounds. You probably do need to lose those 25 pounds, let's be straight. But I'm not saying that you should. It doesn't mean that you need to do any of that stuff. It doesn't mean any of this. It doesn't mean any of that. All it means is you have to sit the fuck down and just observe what your monkey mind is doing. Mine too. Again, I'm not excluding myself from the conversation here. I'm included in this. I got monkey mind too. We all got monkey. But just observe it. Just observe. Just watch it. And the more you repeat that observation, the more it becomes a disciplined practice. It becomes a repetition. It becomes habitual for you to observe rather than respond. That observation will quiet the response. In quieting the response, it will quiet the intensity of that anxiety. It will not take it away. Further work is necessary. This will go on.
That's like 3 thoughts. So three steps.
Yeah, and 3 steps.
Try apply that in instead of like feeling you've got to do it every single day for the rest of your life. Just do it for the first 3 days. You know.
Right, do it for a week. Don't be pussy. Do it for a week.
Yeah, no, that's it. But then, because when you do it for the first 3 days, the likability, you're going to do it again for another 3 days, and then another 3 days, and another 3 days. Because after those first 3 days, you notice, just observe and take note for those 3 days. You know, then it does continue. It ends up being a cycle where you just end up being with it.
Sure.
Same with fasting. Fast 3 days, see what the body does.
True. And this is what I'm saying. Like these things can be resolved. Like it's not, and I'm not saying resolved as in you rid yourself of it, but it can be dealt with. Like it's important to remember. Like please, for the love of God, can we all please just bear in mind that we're 7 billion human beings now. We've been around for 14,000 years, give or take, as a civilized group of human beings, give or take 14,000 years. Mad human beings have been and gone in that time. Mad human beings have been and gone in that time. I don't know how many countless billions of human beings and human lives there have been in the course of those 14,000 years of civilized human history. You can't tell me that we're the only ones, that you're the only one that's experiencing this particular form of isolation or loneliness. You're not. Or has experienced anything this painful. Or has experienced anything this difficult. You are far from being the only one. Far. In fact, if we took 5 seconds to take into stock exactly how far you are from being the only one who's ever gone through what you're going through, you might feel a little fucking ashamed of thinking that you are. And rightfully so. Because you're far from the only one. It's common. It's a regular experience. This is routine life. You're a human fucking being. You're designed to feel lonely and isolated. That's what you do. That's just what you do. You're a human being. Loneliness and isolation is a routine part of your existence, my G. You can't have an eye and not feel lonely or isolated at some point in the course of your existence. You are going to feel that way. Because only you know you and only you have to confront your own mortality. You can't tell me you're not going to feel lonely. You're going to feel lonely. And you can't tell me you're not going to feel isolated. You're going to feel isolated because nobody dies with you, homie. That's just you. That's going to happen. I don't like all this kind of like people bullshitting people like, nah, you can get over this. No, you can't. You are going to feel that. What I'm saying is it's okay. It's all right. I feel lonely. Okay. How's that going today? I feel isolated. Cool. You kind of isolated. How's that going today? You know what I mean? Like, it don't have to be like the end of the fucking world. It don't have to be, I feel lonely and isolated. There's something wrong with me. Ain't nothing wrong with you. You're supposed to be lonely and isolated. 1, you're in isolation. 2, the world is a shithole. 3, and I'll end on this. 3, I feel like this might be a subject for next week's discussion. Y'all better be listening, because if I put this up in the poll and y'all don't respond to it, I'm going to feel away. Because I just killed like an hour and a half of my voice on you people. I'm just saying. But 3, I feel like we've what's the word I'm looking for here? We've I don't know, we've privatized reflection, introspection. Do you know what I mean? We've privatized it. We've subcontracted it. We've leased it out. Do you see what I'm saying? Nobody does their own reflection anymore. We go on Instagram for that shit. Nobody does their own introspection anymore when they get lonely and get isolated. We go on Facebook to ignore it. We put ourselves out in virtual reality at every stage of our lives in as much form and fashion as we possibly can in order to acquire the appreciation and acknowledgement of other human beings as a means of gauging the validity of our realities. Mm-hmm. I said mad words with mad syllables in there. I just kicked mad words with mad syllables. If y'all aren't paying attention, I don't know what the fuck to tell you. There were mad syllables in that sentence. Like, see, these are lessons, my G. That PhD weren't for nothing. I'm just saying. But what we've done is instead of like value our lives, that is to say, to reflect upon ourselves and start to seriously take into consideration the meaning and validity or value of our mortality. Instead of confronting that ourselves, insofar as it will be you to confront your own anyway when it comes to it. Instead of doing that, we subcontract it to fucking Instagram. Mm-hmm. You put your whole life on Instagram and Facebook and your whole life online and you want people to approve and validate. And again, I'm not saying this is a criticism. That's what Instagram and Facebook is. It's just that it was created by a socially awkward, weird nerd who nobody was friends with. So what did you think it was going to do? I, for one, am not that weird nerd. I don't know. I didn't need Facebook to make friends. I have friends. I don't know, Mark. Mr. Zuckerberg, I ain't that dude. Like, I'm sorry. I wasn't lonely struggling, so I needed a whole Facebook. I needed to design a whole fucking website because I couldn't connect with people. Bro, I have friends, homie. I was cool making friends. And more to the point, I was cool not knowing what my friends were doing every 5 seconds. I was really cool with that. I preferred it when they told me at the end of the week and they called me up and like, yo, you know what I did this week? But nah, I actually don't know what you did this week. Please inform me. I don't like it when I'm like, yo, you see what I did this week? Like, yeah, I saw your whole fucking life. You put it on your life, bro.
Yeah.
I put it in your life, bro. Like, come on, man. Come on. Anyway, so loneliness, isolation. Look, listen. Much appreciated. Listen, hold up. First off, yo, much love for everybody who joined up. Much love for everybody who came on. Much love for everybody. Now y'all see why it's always the sunglasses and the prayer hand symbol. Because, like, this is how I be, like, on a regular. For real, though. So much love for everybody who came on. Much love for everybody who joined us. Much love for everybody who had questions to ask. Everybody who voted. Everybody who answered the questions on a poll. Who voted on the poll, sorry. Who asked the question to be answered. Everybody who did all that, I really, really appreciate it. We appreciate all of y'all. Everybody stay safe. Everybody stay the fuck healthy. Everybody stay the fuck indoors. And everybody be okay with being isolated. It's calm. It's all right. Everybody be okay with being lonely. It's okay. You're supposed to feel lonely. That's normal. You're a human being. You're supposed to get over it, and you get over it by being okay with it. Like, just chill. You're supposed to be lonely. Sit in it for 5 minutes. You'll be all right. In the meantime, if y'all can't deal with your loneliness and need more distractions, y'all know I'm going to be back here next week, Monday. I'm just saying. Y'all know we'll be back here next week, Monday, and I promise, next week, Monday, it might have to be a different fitted, bro. I don't know if I'm still feeling the yellow. You know what I'm saying? I know how y'all feel, but I don't know if I'm still am I still so hot on the yellow? I mean, it's fly. But, like, you know, I might have to kick another one next week. We're going to see. I might have to kick another one next week. We'll see. But listen, everybody, thank you. We'll see y'all next week. Monday, 7 o'clock. And there's new rules, new guidance. Hey, listen, before y'all go anywhere, listen up. That's how this goes. You know how when you'll go to like Thorpe Park or Chessington, Mark, I know how you feel the same way. Hey, we all go to Thorpe Park and Chessington and wherever else. You got to be at least this high to get on this ride. All right, cool. Y'all got to bring at least this many people with you the next time to get on this ride. Like, y'all have to bring this many. You can't come into this room if y'all don't bring this many people with you. This ain't one of those, like, regular type clubs. And this ain't no regular, like, we open at 6 o'clock in the evening and let any kind of dusty motherfucker with, like, trainers on in the club. Nah, homie. This is an exclusive spot. We open mad late and we bring the VIPs. Y'all got to bring someone with you, man. You'll bring 2 people with you. Are you coming in the room? I don't know what you think this is. Like, just because it's on Instagram Live, y'all can all just join in. Oh, he called it an open seminar, so it's open for all of y'all. No, hey. Yeah, no, it is. It is. I'm messing with you. I'm gonna get off here before I start fooling myself some more. But Mark, thank you very, very much, man.
No worries, brother.
Much blessings to you and yours.
I'm like trying to do 3 things at once, so that's kind of like I've been half absent. So I'm glad you talked.
Yo, that's why you the engineer. That's why you the engineer, homie. That's why you the engineer. That's why you that guy, man. So listen, much love to you and yours. Much love to everybody out there. Y'all still listening. Much love to everybody there. And yeah, next week, Monday, 7 o'clock. I'm going to see you all there. And forget this, even if not next week, Monday, 7 o'clock, next week, Sunday, Next week Sunday, Mark. It's mix number 52. That's their 1 year anniversary, bro. It's a big thing. Big things. It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be amazing. I'm mad excited. So yeah. Thank you guys. Stay blessed. Stay blessed. Mark, peace, man. I'll speak to you in a bit.
People.
Peace.